How can healthcare organizations deliver on the promises that they make to healthcare providers and patients using Insightly CRM? That's the question for today's episode of Closing Time. Thanks so much for tuning into Closing Time, the show for go-to-market leaders. I'm Melinda Prescher, Insightly's Director of Product and Customer Marketing. Today, I have the pleasure of hosting a very special Customer Spotlight edition of Closing Time, where we'll dive into real CRM use cases from an Insightly customer. Whether you're a weekly Closing Time listener or an Insightly customer or both, you'll find useful takeaways on how to better optimize and leverage your CRM. So now, without further ado, please welcome our guest, Frank Gray III, CEO and President of NueLine Health. Thanks so much for joining us, Frank.
Thanks, Melinda. Happy to be here.
To kick things off, please tell the audience about NueLine Health.
Yeah, absolutely, Melinda. NueLine Health is a neurodiagnostics testing company headquartered in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas. Our mantra is very simple. We want to provide clinical and financial value to healthcare providers. NueLine Health is to neurology what a cardiovascular or cardiologist is performing like an EKG to a primary care practice. And so we're that first line of defense when it comes to the brain, which really is something that not a lot of healthcare providers necessarily think of. I think in the primary care level, it's very heart focused and very orthopedic focused. And so we're actually bringing about more of an awareness to neurology in general as well, and just some of the diseases that we find overlap with our orthopedic and cardiovascular friends.
Frank, we know that for healthcare organizations, having, safety, security around data and HIPAA compliance, those are really just table stakes for this industry. I'd love to hear your thoughts about how Insightly helps you conform to those requirements.
Sure. Well, I would say right off the jump, I think of peace of mind, having a platform that not only houses all of the data, but to know that it's safe and secure. One of the ways that we actually really learned that the platform was safe and secure was through our Joint Commission accreditation that we achieved in January of 2024. That group cares deeply about compliance, specifically as it relates to HIPAA and protective health information and things of that regard. When we walked through our accreditation interview, or when it came to, okay, where are you housing the data? And we discussed Insightly, we showed our EULA agreement and our BAA that we have in place, and then walked through how we can account for audit logs in the system and basically track the data as it gets updated from one point to the next. Part of what helped NueLine Health achieve an extremely high score. We had a near perfect score. And from a documentation standpoint, our interviewer, who had been basically interviewing other healthcare companies for the Joint Commission for over 20 years, said that NueLine Health, based on what he had seen, again, thousands of interviews, had some of the most buttoned up methodology and documentative record keeping for our entire operational workflow. We could not do that without Insightly and that entire process that, again, we're able to track with reporting, audit logs, and to be able to account for any change in information, not just housing it. All of that is HIPAA PHI related. And, when going through an audit process, that's really what auditors and the like are really looking for. Can you not only house your data, but can you also account for it? And the system's been great at doing that for us.
That's great. Next, I'd like to have you level set on the importance for you and your team to have confidence in Insightly's HIPAA compliance and security measures to protect patient data.
Yeah, absolutely. With Insightly, NueLine Health, and just to reset, we perform what's called a neurodiagnostic test, which is performed inside of a patient's home. And with that test, we're basically scanning brain data, getting the results of the brain scans into the cloud so that a neurologist can interpret, and from there be able to help diagnose a patient, or if they've already been diagnosed, to basically use it as a baseline for checking in where that patient is in their neurological recovery journey. And so for us to be able to have data that is clean and secure, where the entire team can work within one place, Insightly's helped us a great deal. When we looked at Insightly, the number one thing that we had to make sure was that the program was in fact HIPAA compliant. Otherwise, that would have stopped it right then and there. So that was literally the number one checkpoint, if you will, when we were previously looking at other CRMs that we felt could help us from a operational standpoint.
So Frank, you've also used Insightly's customization capabilities to be able to fine tune the CRM to the exact needs of your business. Please talk more about that.
Yeah. So when we first started with Insightly, we had a what I would call a standard user. We had 4 of them. We were entering in leads and contacts and organizations and a little bit of opportunities. We did that for about 2 years. So this is dating back to 2020. In 2022, we really wanted to bring more customization into our lives. We were working off of Google Sheets, and several horror stories came where someone deleted the entire sheet and we had to go do a forensic recovery of it, and things like that happened on several occasions, and it just wasn't conducive to how the company was growing. And so when we looked at customization, we actually didn't even look at Insightly first. We actually looked at other programs. And what's interesting was after we had looked at, I think 20 to 30 different platforms, I never forget, our at the time director of operations came to me and she said, Frank, have we even considered Insightly? And I said, Insightly can do that. And so through her research, she discovered App Connect and the enterprise level and all that could do. We then had some conversations with our account manager at Insightly at the time and went through a tutorial, if you would, or a demo of what the capabilities were. And we got really excited really quick. That was in July of 2022. Within basically 12 months, we basically built a fully operational system for the entire business line. And so of the 55 employees that work for NueLine Health, every single employee has an Insightly account, works within Insightly, and is actively working within the system on a daily basis. And that platform continues to grow. I think right now we're leveraging close to 100,000 automated tasks a month that's being performed in the system. Everything from automated emails through our Google Business account, creating tasks for employees, setting reminders, creating calendar invites for employees as well, attaching documents to those invites and ins. It's really helped us a great deal just in terms of being able to scale. And, I tell people right now, Insightly is pretty much doing the work of about 10 people in our company for, of course, a fraction of the cost, which is nice. So it's been a great help to us on the automation front.
So Frank, yeah, App Connect was exactly where I was headed with my next question. And I'd love to hear you speak to just how much of your business is actually automated and made simpler with App Connect.
Yeah, sure, Melinda. So as of right now, in Q1 of 2024, approximately 80% of the business is automated through App Connect. And one of the things that we've been doing lately, and actually we just developed our own API working with the Insightly team and our development team that we use with another system that we've developed over the last 14 months or so. Within that system, we actually built, again, an API that connects from Insightly to our NueLine X platform, where all of the testing data gets reviewed by healthcare providers nationwide. And that's a two-way interface. And so Insightly will take a project, and upon project creation, that data will then create a study in NueLine X. And then once certain information like reports are completed, the doctor signs off on it, the actual report itself gets imported back into Insightly into that particular project, as well as additional completion dates and different other data fields that get completed in that system also come back into Insightly. So it's a two-way street in regards to how that's working. That project took all of 6 weeks for my development team to do that. The Insightly dev team was very helpful in helping us navigate to be able to talk to that platform that we've built natively. And so we feel that there are a lot more applications and things that we can do with Insightly that we really haven't even scratched the surface on. Not just with I think it's 2,000 plus platforms that AtConnect and Insightly already team up to integrate with now, but you can also do your own. And so that's been very helpful for us.
Frank, you're actually running multiple companies with Insightly. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about the impact that Insightly makes to your team's productivity and the ability to deliver for your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. NueLine Health is one of 3 companies that currently leverages Insightly within my corporate portfolio. I've got the NueLine Clinic, which is a brick and mortar storefront for clinical services, primary care, if you will. If you're sick or, if you need blood work done, we have an on-site laboratory within that office as well. There's 2 locations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then right next door to one is also our med spa called NueLine Aesthetics. And so each of those entities has its own Insightly account. For the NueLine Clinic, we're more so looking at our laboratory and basically looking at the type of blood test we're running versus the patient database and the diagnostic codes, and putting together insightful data in that regard, which will look to eventually connect that to a custom laboratory informatics system that we're about to start building. That's a whole other project that'll be in the works for later this year, early into 2025. And then on the med spa side with the aesthetics, it's important for us to break down each and every encounter, every time that a client comes and visits the med spa. What services are they getting? Are they repeat customers? How many units of, whether it's Botox or an injectable, are they getting, which allows us to keep track of inventory, see what's selling, what's not, and to be able to have usable data on that front. And in that system, we're actually getting data from our electronic health record system called Aesthetic Record, where we import appointment times and data on those clients. Those become encounters and leads within Insightly. And then we're able to have measurables for what are we doing that week, the next week, what did we do last quarter? And that really helps us help guide that business. So although all 3 Insightly accounts are different, NueLine Health is an enterprise account. The others are simply paid subscription accounts with a lot less people on them, but that's ever so growing. And in all 3, it's helping us gain further insights on our business and helping us determine not only what we're doing now, but what we should be doing next.
All right, Frank, that's all the time that we have for this episode. Thanks so much for all of these insights and for joining the show. Frank, if our audience wants to learn more about NueLine Health, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Simply go to our website at newlinehealth.com. NueLine spelled NEULINE, health, like good for your health.com. There you can find out information about the ambulatory EEG test, what it means to patients. We've got resources with different organizations like Alzheimer's and autism and concussions and just some of the various neurological issues that we test for. And if you reach our staff off that website, someone will definitely get back to you in very short order with more details.
Really appreciate you joining us again, Frank. And thanks so much to all of you for tuning in. Remember to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for notifications so that you don't miss a single episode. We'll see you next time on Closing Time.